Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Russell Wright with Network Empire and ThemeZoom.com. I'm here with Matt DeCruz and Sue Bell. This is exciting. We are going to get into DWS, any silo empire builder, and the difference between the two, I believe, is the main focus of today, so that you guys are aware. I've just been on the phone this morning with customers and students, one student in England, really trying to understand the difference between any builder and DWS. And I'm really aware, one of the things he said to me was, you guys are unbelievably powerful. There's all of these incredible tools and plugins. He said, I've never been more excited in my life. This is a guy from England, Michael, this morning. And he said, I'm actually in a state of, like, I feel like I've walked into a candy shop or the most exciting gaming environment ever. And I just don't know exactly how to use the DWS Any Builder yet. Which one do I use first? Now, today is perfect that Matt is doing this. Going to be getting into this. Matt is the original developer and architect, along with Sue Bell as the architect of this technology. And it's just so powerful. And I'm really, really excited that all of you are going to be getting this information. Now, if you have any questions, my job here today is to just make sure that I see the questions coming up. And can I have a 1 so that you can hear a 1 if you can hear us? You should have heard Matt as well. We have a pretty large group coming in today. This webinar is being recorded, and you can do a replay. And please do share this webinar with your friends. There's no hidden content. That's completely fine for you to share this with your staff and your team, as I know there's a lot of questions. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time out to schedule this. It's really brilliant. Sue, also thank you very much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Russ. Okay. Thanks, guys, for joining on with me. How's everyone? Just want to do an audio check. Can you guys give me 1 if you can hear me? Okay, cool. The ones are coming through. Okay, I'm going to get stuck right into what we're going to go do today. What I want to do with you guys is take you through DWS and any silo builder, explain what's the difference between the tools, explain the logic behind the screens and why we developed the tools in the way we did, and then give you a contrast of how this fits into the whole web ring and what are the best uses for what tools where. Okay, so I sent out the PDF document today, which has got some questions in, which we'll cover a bit later on. But what I'm going to do first, guys, is I just want to give a distinction between the two tools. So we've got the DWS Any Silo Builder. This is the light version of DWS. Now, there's 2 versions of the Any Light version. If you've got a Pro subscription, you can actually use both of the tools. You can use the Pro version with all the features, or if you don't need to use features of the Pro version and you like the Light version more, you can use the Light version. The Light version is a much more user-friendly system in the sense that it's a bit more prettier. It maps out the process for you guys very simply, and there's less features in the light version. It basically, when we made the light version, the whole idea behind the light version was to get you to your website as fast as possible. Okay, it contains the important screens like the keyword decision screen. It allows you to publish the nodes, the silo nodes, as you want to, and it lets you get your site up and running super fast. You don't have to worry about it. So if you don't have a team and all those other kind of other things, the light version is a great tool just to knock out sites really quickly. Okay, on the Pro version has a whole bunch more stuff. There's team screens, there's promotional plans, there's reports, there's all sorts of stuff. So what I want to do is I'm going to quickly go through the light version, show what we have there. Then I want to hop across to the Pro version. I want to dig deeper into the Pro version, explain the concepts behind the screens, what we've done there and the reasons why, and show you a few tips and techniques to adjust things and tweak things. And then I want to jump into the actual reporting side of the actual Pro version that we've not covered much on. Okay, guys, can you give me a 1 if you guys are clear on the agenda for today? And this is a Q&A session, guys, so please feel free, as we're moving through each of the screens, send across your questions. I really want you guys to understand the tool because it's super powerful. And I've done a few videos where I've shown you guys how I built a website in 10 minutes, very, very quickly, just using the tool.
Couple of things, Matt.
Sure.
Josh, we are definitely recording. That's okay.
Yes.
And Patrick's asking what plan gets the light version. And I'll go ahead and drop that to him.
Okay. When you sign up for the basic any version, the basic membership, you get the light, the super light version, which allows you to create one site. And over here you can see I've got the unlimited mini pro site license. This is because I've got the pro version. If you got your basic Network Empire membership area, you get access to the super light version, which gives you one website. You can actually create one website with it. Okay, and this is the view that you guys will see. So basically, when you create your empire and you set it all up, you can then go and import your keywords, design your site, mark the nodes that you want to have published, export them out to your blueprint, and then bang, that's the site built up. By that time, you would use the deep silo builder if you're using supporting articles in this application, and you just import that XML file, and that will be your site built in WordPress literally in seconds. Okay, so that's the difference. We've got basically three types. We've got the Superlight version, which is a one-site version, which comes with your any basic bundle. We've then got the Pro version, which is if you have got the TLKT and DWS Pro bundle, then you get access to the Pro version, or you can use the Lite version, but with the unlimited site thing. So it's nice and flexible. If you don't work with teams and you're not worried about creating reports for clients and you just want to build sites, this is a great version which can help you get through the process really, really quickly. I just want to do a quick check here. Can you guys give me a 1 if you're using the Lite version, or 2 if you're giving the Pro version? I just want to get a feeling for who's using what just quickly. Okay, so most of you guys on the Pro version. So I'll spend a bit more time in there today. Kevin's not using it. Well, I think after today, Kevin, you'll
Definitely.
We might have lost Matt.
Yeah. I don't know if some of you may not know this. Matt's calling in from South Africa. So from time to time, we have issues. And this might be one of those times. We shall see. Oh, you're from Dave McCormick's. Are you really? Oh, you're not in South Africa. David's saying that he is South Africa.
He's going to take over South Africa.
Okay. That's not much of a search engine over there, though. Did I say that out loud? Sorry, Sue. It's more like a website directory. Google directory. Okay, Dave McCormick's in UK. All right. Did we lose Matt? I think we might have.
And it says that he's still on the call, and I can still see his screen.
He's probably talking away, oblivious.
He's probably just accidentally muted himself. No, you'd think that he'd figure that out, but no.
Matt, we can't hear you. Let me ping him on Skype.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What is going on with
Can you guys hear me?
We can
We
now.
can hear you now.
We lost
Yeah.
you pretty much for the last 2 minutes or so. You might just want to start all over again.
Sorry guys, I bumped the mute on my headset.
Okay.
Okay. What I want to do is just give some forethought of why we created DWS and when we created the Pro Bundle. Before we built the tool, there's a lot of spreadsheets being used, and we used the Kraken blueprints to generate our sites. Then we took that, mapped out our site, and there's a lot of work in between, but it was the management of multiple sites that became a tedious product, and it took a lot of time to actually get the site live because you had to go through WordPress, create your page, create the category, map out the slugs, one page at a time, and this was a hard, long, tiring job. So soon I got together and we started throwing a few ideas around, and then that's how DWS was born. And the concept behind DWS was we wanted to rapidly be able to apply our business logic to the keyword data set and get a result back that gave us KPIs that showed us what keywords are potentially important to our business. Now, obviously, when DWS does the calculations for every single keyword that it does, there's 17 calculations that happen where it does certain quality checks on each keyword, and it ranks, filters, and sorts out each keyword as you load the data settings. So if you refresh your screen within those 2 or 3 seconds when the screen reloads, and you've got 100 keywords in that grid, the best out of the keywords will float to the top, with the most profitable keywords floating to the top. But because it's a perfect solution to imperfect data, essentially some keywords are not right for what you want to do. So you always got to think about the business, you got to think about what you're selling, and you got to think about who you're selling to. So with that in mind, that helps you to sculpt your data better by seeing the commercial values of what those keywords actually mean to your business. Does that make sense to you guys? If you want me to slow down and go over that a bit more, I'll do that. Just give me one if you're clear on that, because this is what's the foundations.
KPI is a term you threw out that maybe not everybody's familiar with.
KPIs are key performance indicators. So when we look at the sales funnel, what's at the heart of DWS's data set and the algorithms we wrote was we took basically the performance indicators of our sales funnel, we took the business prices or the group gathering or the average of a bunch of products we sell, and it gives us the ability to basically put a flag in the ground and let us get a model of what potentially is available in that specific space that we're trying to look at.
So in other words, you take a look at how much money you have to spend on your website, and you take a look at what your estimate your conversions are going to be, and you take a look at how much money you want to make off your website, and this does all of those calculations to tell you which keywords pass those tests and which ones don't, right?
Yes, that's correct. So that's what the whole idea of the business rules was. It was we wanted to have the ability to take a segment of the data set, so that's why we could set our silos, our categories, and supporting articles. So we broke that whole data set down into 3 chunks, so we could see the different verticals. We wanted to have the keywords that didn't fit within our budget, i.e. they were too expensive to be put out on the side, but we still wanted to be able to access them. And then we wanted to be able to see which keywords have the potential to create the most sales for us within the business. So that's what's at the heart of DWS. And then more importantly, we wanted to build up the sites super fast. We wanted to knock out the silo structure, get it into WordPress, get the team to write the content, get the site live, because the sooner we get our sites live, the sooner they start getting indexed, and the sooner we can start getting ranked for those particular type of keywords. Okay. Guys, can you give me one if you are clear behind the idea behind what DWS is? It's basically a modeling engine that takes search engine data and translates it into business logic, and it assists us in making better decisions when we're actually mapping out our sites. More importantly, when we're speaking to clients that we're doing work for, we can have a better conversation with them about their business and what potential keywords mean to their business, rather than talking about search volume and stuff like that. We're actually talking about ROI, return on investment, and roughly how long it's going to take them to get to that point. Okay, so with no further delays, I'm going to quickly just go straight into the Pro version because I saw most of the guys are there. This is the light version when you log in, and I'll come back to this in the end, but I want to jump right into the Pro version and just walk us through it. Yes.
We actually changed the nomenclature on this back a little while ago. We call Network Empire Builder is what you're referring to as Light.
Yes.
So we've got Network Empire Builder Light and Pro, where Network Empire Builder Pro is the unlimited version, and then DWS is referenced as a different product.
Right, okay, I'll follow that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I was going to show you the SASE product here. Now, as you log into DWS, this is the home screen, and the idea of empires came around where when we thought about the web ring, we got the WR1, the WR2, the WR3. Within the web ring, the WR1 is the most important site. It's the site it's your business ID, it's the corporate ID, it's where you transact, it's where you make your money, it's where you want to target specific keywords, and you want to really focus on the market and go for the things that you believe will make most money for you. Okay, so within the empire, we create our WR1 sites. Okay, we can also create WR2 sites and WR3s if we wanted to, using different parts of the actual data set we import in from Kraken. Okay, so as we log in, this is the Empire screen, and in each Empire we can have multiple projects. So if we look at any builder, you can see as I click on each Empire, there's one site within each one that I've done. But you can have multiple, and the way you go about doing this is all you do is click on Add New Site. So in the unlimited version of DWS, let's just say with Sassy, we first did the website, the W1 for hair and the business and what the services are. We could come and add another site, and we can start creating a site for a subdomain, which could be our e-commerce channel, which focuses on hair extensions, the hair products, and all the other stuff that they sell online. Okay, and all that gets contained within the actual empire of the site. So within one empire, you can essentially name it by client. You can use any naming convention that you want, but the idea is that within an empire, you have multiple sites that are all designed to deal with certain parts of the market. Guys, can you give me a 1 if you're clear on that? Okay, cool. So if you want to make changes, you can simply click on the update site, and this will allow you to update all the business rules for this actual site. From these nodes, we can jump into different parts of DWS. So what you can see in the Pro version, we've got the silo framework. There's the basic screen. There's the advanced screen, which contains the PPC data. We can watch the blueprint. We can see the grid. That becomes like a spreadsheet where we can actually look at the whole layout of the actual structure when we've created our DNA braid and all those things. And you can even bind demographic profiles to your site. Okay, so I'm just going to close that off there, and I'm going to push that across here. And I'm just going to open up these different views. So we can just have a look at this quickly. Now, the silo framework is essentially where we design the site. This is where we import our keywords in. You're probably all familiar with this screen. And this is where we can see where the money flows through the actual market. In the advanced version, we get the PPC data over here. Okay, I'm going to come back and explain these things to you shortly. In the silo blueprint, this gives us the grid. So we can actually export this by clicking on the PDF or the spreadsheet, and we can send this to a client. And then finally, the demographic profile. We can actually add a new profile to this, and this allows us to make notes of who we're selling to. This is the market personality. In the Technical Foundations 1's course, we speak a lot about the market personality, who we're selling to, why we're selling to them, what do they want, what do they see. Okay, now from that home screen, you can see we got into a lot of different features that are laid just over there. The next module that comes into the thing is the DNA braid. And essentially, what happens is when you've mapped out your silo architecture, what you want to do next then is you want to create your DNA braid. The DNA basically means building blocks of, and the braid is what are the important words that stitch that page's content together. Because remember, when you map out a silo structure and you're looking at the actual architecture of the site, and we're going from the silos, the supporting articles, and the categories, each page essentially has its own unique DNA braid. And what we typically do there is we cherry pick keywords with high search volume that are very closely related, and we take hardly ever more than 5 of those keywords and we connect them to that actual blueprint. And what that does is it goes across and it helps us develop better content, because now once we've designed the architecture of the actual site, then we can actually go and design what keywords are important for the content, for the writers to write. And that gets brought forward into the actual content section. In the team communication section, this is where we can add team members, we can assign tasks to them, and we can actually send them communications in this module over here. Then in step 5, this is where we export the website and we get the XML file to create the blueprint. Once we've got everything exported and moved out, we can create the promotional plan. This whole section is going to get revamped. Sue and I are going to be working on this pretty soon. And we're going to make it work better so that it ties in with Social Explosion and all these other promotional tools that we've developed for you guys. And then finally, we've got the reports. So when you look at DWS, what it does is it gives you the ability to import your keyword data set, apply your business rules to it, figure out what the costs are to develop the actual site, tag the most important keywords within the market, which we get from TRKT and Kraken, to each node within our blueprint. We can communicate with our team members if we want to, and we can assign tasks to them. We can have our writers log in and actually create content within DWS. And if they do create the content, then when we export that actual silo structure, that content gets brought with, it gets injected into the XML file, and when you suck it into WordPress, when you import it in, it actually imports that content with you, and that whole page gets created straight away. Okay, once it's all done and dusted and the site's up and live, we can then hop to our promotional plan, and we can actually generate the plan. And what's great about the promotional plan, there's certain parts of it that we're going to actually make obsolete because it's too much work. We've automated a lot of those tasks for you. But what's great about the promotional plan is when you speak to clients, it actually gives them an idea of what promotions you can be focused on, what keywords you're going to be focusing on over the full duration of what DWS estimates is going to take you to get ranked for that actual keyword based on how competitive those terms actually are. That was a mouthful. Can you guys give me a 1 if you actually understand the process, the workflow that goes through here when we're looking at DWS? Okay, so there's a whole bunch of questions coming through. Here's one from Kevin. He says, so if you're building a local directory site, you can have all the sub-home services sites, plumber, electrician, roofer grouped together in one place. Yes. If you're planning to target specifics, like specific trades, Kevin, then what I would do is on your empire is actually going to be, it will be like home maintenance or home renovation, or it could just be home services. And within that home services empire, you can then have your sites which are essentially going to be plumbers, electricians, carpenters, roofers, carpet layers, brick builders, all those kind of things. And you can create a subdomain for each of those, and each subdomain can be focused specifically on the keywords that are relevant to each of those services. And what I did here quickly was you can start thinking about how the power is going to flow through your actual URL structure up front by doing that. So example, you could have over here, you could have plumbers dot homeservices.com / either a town, you could have a town or a locale / service type, and you can stop there at the category level. You don't have to go down to the supporting article levels. Typically the supporting articles was where when you think about an e-commerce store, then you can actually start putting the long tails in there. You can put the exact product name and the IDs and all the stuff that goes with the IBN numbers and all those kind of things that go with it. But typically when you look at your domain, if you're at your domain level, that's got the most power. Then the subdomain has the second most power. Then the silo gets the third, fourth, fifth. So the deeper down we go into the actual architecture, the less juice those actually have. Okay, so if you're doing local stuff, it's recommended that use the town or the actual thing you're targeting at the subdomain level, and that frees up your whole URL structure here to target other keywords within there. Does that make sense for you, Kevin, what I've said there? Does that clarify your answer? So just to rephrase, you create your empire with the global view, and then you use subdomains of your domain, and you create your sites for subdomains. So you can have your WR1, which is on the actual domain level, which can explain what the whole site's about, what the services are, and then what you can do then is from that domain, the top level one, you can actually link down to the subdomains of your silo structure, and you can just have a small one-page website on top, and you can connect up the whole subdomain structure from the top level website. Okay, cool. Guys, do you have any questions at this stage with regards to the Empire screen and what you can do with this and how you can organize your stuff. I just want to make sure you guys are clear about how you can utilize this to really organize your domains. If you want me to move on to say 1 or 2, just fire your questions if you've got any ambiguity about this actual screen. Okay. In today's call, I'm not going to go about showing you how to create new empires and all that kind of stuff. We've covered that already. But what I am going to do is I'm going to hop across to updating the site parameters. I just want to open that up quickly there and talk about that. Let me just go back here. Okay, so this is the site parameters, and basically what I've got over here is the primary targeted keyword, which I've got is hair salon. This is the keyword I want to dominate. I want to get ranked for this keyword, and that's the national keyword. In this website's example, it's a local website that we're building, but the reason why we're looking at a national level is we're looking for advertising agencies to contact us and to basically get work from them as well. So when we get at the national level, we get to seem to get more professional work from bigger organizations. Okay, but as we're going through this, I've put in the URL. If I've got a blog, I can put that in there. So this helps me keep a record of what the domains are, what's the blog's domain, what's the profile name. This is what I see on top. It's a primary site. What part of the web ring does it actually fall into? Okay, is the project active or not? Elevator pitch. Okay, there we're just filling in a short little elevator pitch, a longer pitch, and then the bio about the guys. You can fill these in and keep them over here, and it tells you how much characters you have left when you do that. And then we get into actually the settings of the sites. So we can select what search engine we're targeting, the currency that we're trading in, and then we get into our silo settings. Now, the project silo settings, what we've done over here is we've given you the ability to segment your data set into 3 layers, where all the long tails are essentially your supporting articles, your categories are midterms, and then the silos are obviously at the top of the vertical. Now, when you look at Kraken and you use Kraken, what Kraken does is it basically drills through all the verticals from a top-down approach. So we're actually looking, if you imagine a triangle, Kraken sits at the top of this triangle, and it looks about halfway down the triangle. When you think about TLKT looks from the bottom up, and it gives us all the long tails and basically every single keyword that we can find, and it comes from the bottom up. And that's how the two tools basically cover the entire market from a keyword analysis point of view. Now Kraken's a market analysis tool. It looks at the entire market and it shows us how the market looks and feels and how much money is flowing through there. TLKT is a keyword tool. It brings us back keywords. Okay, so if you're doing local search and local type of sites, then TLKT is the best match. If you're working on national, then Kraken is the best match to get the data back. The reason why I'm speaking about these two tools now is because they're going to come next when we actually start looking at bringing data into DWS. Does that make sense to you, guys? Do you understand the difference between Kraken and TLKT and what they bring back? Okay, so Kraken is market-related terms because it's market analysis. We get to see what are the most important themes across that entire market we looked into. And with TLKT, we're bringing back all the keywords, and TLKT fills in all the gaps that Kraken has shifted apart as not being the most important keywords within that market. Okay, so once we import the keyword data in, we can actually segment the data into our chunks here. And when we look at the keyword decision screen, over here, we can see a S. I was going to zoom in, and guys, just tell me if you can see that better. Is that better and more clear for you? Just give me one if you can see the screen better. Okay, so when we look at this section here, the project silo settings, we can say silo market size is greater than 1 million. Category market size is smaller than 1 million. Supporting articles are greater than 10,000. Okay, so I've segmented this data set by that. And when we look at the keyword decision screen, which is basically this part here, the silo framework, we can see the S's for silos, the C for categories, and if I show more keywords in my business rules, we'll be able to see more SAs. Okay, that column there shows us the segmentation. So what we can do with our filters is we can actually filter and look at all the silos in one shot. So let's say you want to build a silo site that contains maybe 4 or 5 silos. You essentially can come in with your data set and you can look, okay, these are all the keywords that qualify silos. So do I do wedding invitations? No. Do I do wedding cakes? No. Wedding rings? None of these things. Do we do haircuts? Yes. Do we have makeup artists? Yes. Do we do wedding rings? No. So we can essentially click on these keywords and we can move them into our blueprint very quickly, and I'll show you how we do that shortly. Okay, so do you guys understand the project silo settings and why we segment the data into 3 chunks? It's okay, just give me 2 if you don't understand the segmentation part, or 1, because I just want you guys to understand this. It's not a very complicated thing, and it's not something that you can get wrong, so you don't have to worry about it. All we're doing is we're just sorting the data into groups, so it makes it easier for us to actually work with the ideas when we're actually mapping out the silo architecture. Because remember, when you're mapping out your site design, the architecture, you're the architect, you have to think about how does these top-level terms impact the user when they're actually landing your site. Because remember, when we design sites, we're not building sites from the business's perspective. We're always building the site from the market personality. The market personality being the person who's actually looking at the screen. What themes are going to connect to that person, and how are those themes going to make that person get to where they need to be as fast as possible within your site design? Okay, do you guys get that? Just want to make sure you're clear on that. Okay, so when you design your sites, always look at your site design from the market personality's perspective, and you'll find that it'll help you build better sites because you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're looking at the screen from their perspective. A big mistake many guys make is, or many people make, is they build sites from the business's perspective and it's all about the business and what their ideas are, but they forget who they're selling to, and then they wonder why their conversions are low. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, what I do is I look at the keyword I'm going after when I look at my data when I'm in TLK or Kraken, and I look at what the phrase match is for that actual keyword. And if that keyword I'm targeting is, let's just say it's 5 million, then I would basically say make all my silos greater than 2 million or 3 million, just a little bit below it. So I can see that one, what's just below it, and I can also see what's above it. The category is always going to be the same value over there because it's smaller than, and then the supporting keywords, I just use anything. If I look at the data set and I see that a lot of the keywords are really small and there's not much search volume, if we're doing something really niche, then we can change these right down to 500,000. Okay, so the segmentation of your data all depends on the type of niche market or theme that you're actually looking at, if that makes sense. David, this is just the update screen. It's not the actual create new project screen. That's why it looks different. It's got these features in. I'll go back and I'll show you how I got there just to make it clear for you. When I'm in my project, I've opened it up and I've clicked on update site parameters. I'm not creating a new site. When we click on add new site, this is the typical screen that we see. There's a site and there's an add new site. It's got a bit more. So there's our silo settings over there. Does that clarify that for you, David? Okay. Yeah, you're on the silo framework screen. That's which is slightly different. I'm still a bit behind you. Okay. Let's get back to where we were. So this is what we do with the silo settings. By default, when you start on the project, if you're not sure, just leave them as they are. The defaults are set for you. And when you import your data, look at it. And if everything seems a bit off, then just come in and just tone them down. So if you wanted to make everything, if most of your keywords are less than 1 million, then basically start with 500,000 for your silos, 500,000 for your categories, and then make it 100,000 for your supporting articles, and that'll give you nice chunks. So essentially all we're trying to do is we're trying to break it down into 3 nodes. You can even go a million, and we can make these 500,000. It's not going to really make a big difference on what you're doing. It just helps you segment the data. Okay. Next, project development cost. I know in the questions you guys sent me today, a lot of you guys were asking about the actual setting up the costings and all that kind of stuff. So what I want to focus a lot on tonight is more from the business's point of view of how we can use this tool better. Okay. So in the project development cost settings, we've got a backlink unit cost, and we've got a content cost per article. Okay. We've got 2 types of content. We've got the content that goes on our site, and we've got the promotional content that goes out through our blog. Okay. And there's different costs associated. They might be the same. If they're the same, you can make them both whatever the price is. Or if you're getting guys to write articles for you that are very expensive and they're very specific to your market, you can put that in there. So the content cost is for all content that is on site, on the WR1, okay, WR2, WR3. The backlink promotional cost is all the content that goes through the WRS, that goes through your social channels, i.e. from your blog through the RSS to Facebook, Twitter, all those places. That's your backlink cost, because every article that you write, that you syndicate and promote, okay, has a link linking back to the originating place within your WR1 site. Can you guys give me one if you understand that? That's what we call backlink content cost, because it's links coming back from the Facebook place or Twitter or wherever. It's coming back to your blog, and then your blog is connected to your WR1 primary money site. You could even in your article have links running from the blog that you've posted back into your money site as well. So it connects everything through. But usually there's different costs for guys who are writing your blog articles versus guys who are writing your professional copy for your money pages. Okay, so this is what we put in over here for the content cost, and this gets carried across into the Silo framework screen. And when we look at the screen, I'm going to get into this in quite a lot of detail because I need you guys to understand what it means when you look at a row. But essentially, there's the cost for the actual article. Okay, so the SSA stands for Suggested Supporting Articles. There's 6. Okay. 6 times 25 gives us that cost. So it's 6 articles plus the landing page gives us that number over there. Okay. Are you guys clear on that? Just give me a 1 if you're clear. And make sure you guys really understand this, because once you get your heads around the basic setting up of DWS, once you build 1 or 2 sites, you'll see how rapidly you can produce sites, and you can work much faster than most people can. Okay. Cool. So now we come to project conversion rules. This is really important, and I don't want to rush over this very quickly. Essentially, what we're doing over here with the project conversion rules is we're mapping out what we estimate the users are going to do as they move through our sales funnel. Okay, so we basically got guys that are coming from the click on search engines. They're hitting our landing page and they're entering into our funnel. And then we've got guys that are actually completing a funnel. Okay, so the Google traffic conversion, if you ranked in position number 1, the band that I use over here is typically between 17 and 25%. Now, with the search engine traffic, I typically just stick to 25. If you're not sure about the market and that, drop it down to 17%. It's going to reduce the commercial value of the actual data on the keyword decision screen. But that's not a train smash, because remember, guys, what we're doing at this point of time is we're creating data models where we are trying to understand we're always working in a conservative state of mind. We're not going to say, okay, we're going to get 50% of the clicks, we're going to get 80% of the people opting into our list and going into our funnel, and we're going to get 100% of the guys completing. It doesn't work like that in the real world. Typically, when you're creating your models, you want to start off with a very conservative model, and you want to see, can I make money with this? Then you can start increasing it till you find something that looks good to you, that gets close to what you want, and that basically gives you the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you need to achieve to make the financial transactions that you want. Okay, so this is important when you speak to your customers. Typically what I say to the guys is, if it's a brand new website and you've got no analytical data, set the site conversion rate to 1. That's basically 1% of the people that come from Google are going to enter our funnel. If we're doing a back office sales, i.e. we generated a lead, the guys filled in the opt-in form, but we have to phone him back, then at this stage here, the third one, we've got sales follow-up conversion. I often ask the clients that I speak to, I say to them, okay, out of every 10 people you speak to, how many of those people do you actually convert and they transact? What is the number out of 10? And I chatted to one of the students in the Tech Foundation course the other day. They're selling a very expensive product, but their ratio was 100 to 1. So for every 100 people they speak to, one person would buy their product, but their product costs $250,000. Okay, so in that instance, when you build that website and there's a super high ticket item, if you get 2 or 3 sales a month, you're pretty happy. However, if you're selling widgets and you're making 50 cents on a widget, you need to find a lot of traffic if you want to make $10,000 a month. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you sort of get the idea of what we're doing with the project conversion rules? Because this is very important, because what's nice about this is when you look at your data set and you start punching these numbers in, you might find out that for your client to make money in a specific niche that they're after, they might have to have 5% of the people that hit their page must get into the funnel. And then if the people can buy directly right over there, you can change that to 100%. That cancels out the third hop. Okay. So we can just cancel it out, and that updates all your numbers and it gives you great things. If you're doing back office sales, they might say that 7% of the people, 7 out of the 10 people come in, that's 70% of the people convert. Then we stick those in. So basically in Sassy's instance, what we do over here is we go into Google Analytics, if the site exists already, and we basically look at how many people are actually going through their funnel if they've got one set up. And from that, we can take that number and stick it in for the guys, and then we can find out how much people convert, stick that in, and when we look at a data set and we speak to them, it's going to be in line with what they're currently doing. So it's very powerful how we can play around with the sales funnel, and there's 3 things that you can actually do with this. You can use existing metrics from analytics to get a feel of where the missed opportunities are in the market, and between Kraken and the data that comes into DWS, we can essentially show the client, here's all your missed opportunities. These keywords are totally overlooked, but they can actually make you much more money, and they're very congruent to what you're selling. Number 2, we can create a new model for a new business, a new enterprise, and we can still use conservative numbers, but we can say, look, to break even in this market, you have to get X amount of people opting into your funnel, and you have to get a minimum of X amount of people. Your sales team has to close 7 people for you to break even. If they close 9 people out of 10 people, you're going to make X amount of money. You can start having these conversations with the business owners about their sales process in a much more intelligent way, where you're not just talking about SEO and search engines and cost per click and all that other nonsense. You're speaking about their business and how they can actually set things up and what it's going to cost them. Does that give you a better understanding of what the project conversion rules are all about? I just want to make sure you guys get that, because I spend a lot of time fiddling with these numbers before I even start a project, and often when I start looking at things are getting super, super high and I'm still not making money, then I just know this is a dud market, it's no good, and I walk away. So what that does in essence is it essentially saves me a lot of time, saves me a lot of money from buying domains, building sites, getting servers, writing content, creating graphics, getting it online, getting it ranked, blah, 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 all the stuff we have to do. I can see up front, is this a go or is this a dud? If it's a dud, I throw the idea out the door and I move on. Okay, so that's what helps us over there. The next thing we have here is the traffic and conversion calculator. Now this is a very important part of the puzzle as well. How do we make money online? That's a question for you guys. It boils down to 1 word or 2 words. We have to, what do we have to do to make money online? Simple question. Make a sale. Excellent. Yeah, guys, we have to transact. We have to get traffic. Without traffic, we can't transact. Okay, so when I did my training through Action Coach many years ago, we made the property business. We got an action coaching for about 1.5 years. And he grounded into us. Every Thursday he came to the office, we worked in the business, and we had to rattle off the KPIs of our business out of our head. We had to say, we've got so many leads, so many converting, there's so much money being made in the business. Every week we'd be able to say those numbers out of our head. Okay, and what it boiled down to was, what was our financial goal? How much money do we want to make in a month? What is our budget? Okay, if you've got those two numbers, the rest gets calculated for you. Okay, so let's just say we want to make $10,000 a month, and our budget for development for the promotion, let's just say it's $10,000. Okay, now to make $10,000, if our average sales price over a year is 500 Rand or $500, we need to have 200 sales, which means for every 20 people that run through our website, we will create 1 sale. And then we need 4,000 searches a month. Okay, so there's our numbers. We know our numbers already up front. In order for us to make $10,000, we need to create 200 sales, and we need a minimum of 4,000 unique people hitting our site every single month. That's what it boils down to. That's what we need to find within the data that we're going to look at next. And when we find those keywords, then that's how we can start transacting. But we have to meet these KPIs. If I change it to 1, if we got a 1% conversion, the 4,000 becomes 20,000. Okay. So can you see our conversion, your on-page conversion within your sales funnel, how important it is? By having good conversion rates on your website, you reduce your IT debt considerably. It's exponential how it actually reduces, because you're not trying to get 20,000 people through your site, you're only focusing on 4,000 people. Where can you find those 4,000 people? What's the conversation you're going to have with them? And what are they interested in? And how do you create a congruency between the product that your business is selling and what they actually need? What is their pain? How do we find their pain? How do we present our solution to them? We cover this in great detail in Take 1, where in Take 1, it's all about building a business online. It's not about building websites. We build businesses. This is what we do. Okay, so this is what we use the calculator for. Does that make sense to you? Do you guys understand the traffic and conversion calculator? What are we doing there? Essentially, before I start my project, I want to be clear on how much traffic I need to get to be able to meet my financial goals that I've set for the actual project on a monthly basis. And often when you look at your website, if it's a super niche, you might just find out that there's no traffic, there's not enough traffic to actually achieve those goals. Then you can go back to the client and say, look, you got to shoot a bit higher up. You can't go for local SEO in a small town in the middle of nowhere where there's maybe 10 people living there. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, so I've gone through the screen. Let's cover a few questions here. Did they help you? Did they clarify what we actually do on this screen when we actually set it up, guys? Because this is the heart and soul of your entire project is held within the screen. We've basically segmented the market into 3 chunks. We defined what our content is going to cost us. We've set up our sales funnel, and we've also determined how much traffic we actually need to find. And what's interesting sometimes as well with the traffic is when you only need 4,000 people, sometimes it works out right that you can actually just tap straight away into PPC as soon as you get your site live to start pulling that 4,000 in, so you can start making money while your site's actually climbing up through the rankings. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing on setting up the actual site, and those are what those metrics mean to us. So I'm going to look at a few of the questions here and see what you guys are asking. Bill's asking, say you're selling ads on your pages, what is the average profit model then, yearly income? That's an interesting question, Bill. I've never really thought about that as of selling actual ads. I guess the question, when I look at a business online, what I look at is what do I need to turn over on a monthly basis? Russ, do you want to say something there?
Yeah, don't get me started. So we talk a lot about this at the advanced certification level 3, where the billion page club, automatic video traffic. Generally speaking, our rule of thumb has been that we consider the monetization model to be secondary. If you look at the one web ring system, which is u-everywhere.com and other things that Matt talks about in some of his trainings, Sue talks about in other trainings, the entire web ring system, you'll notice, is designed to be you-centric, meaning it's an imploitative process rather than an exploitative one. In other words, everything drives to your own. You're always thinking about your own products and services. Part of that is because only then can you really have accurate calculations for what Matt was talking about, the IT debt. Monetization tends to be a subset number, almost always, even when you're dealing with large networks, or if you ever talk to owners of large networks and conversations with them, even ad services and retargeting ads, such as, I'm sure some of you are familiar with native ads, AdSense, all these things. Generally speaking, those are still predictable, but they're also another person. You're actually getting money from a third-party source rather than from your own infrastructure. And generally speaking, you're going to have different numbers depending upon where on your network those ads are being placed. And then weirdly, you lose a lot of the traffic, and so then you have to. There's actually two other levels of calculations. And Matt, you and I have discussed this, when we hang out. There's two other numbers that you have to calculate that actually make things very dubious unless you own really, really, really large networks. And by the way, this is one of the great myths that we're busting right here. So, if those of you haven't thought about it, those calculations are, how do you get paid? And think about this for a second. A lot of the really large ad networks and retargeting networks and things like, anything from, you just name it, the native ad networks, they really only will allow you to place their ads where it starts to, where you start to make your money back. They really only will allow you to even place those ads and join if you have millions of visitors per month, or at least tens of thousands. And there's a reason for that, because then they have to toggle up their price point and what they're willing to pay based on the traffic or down. And so the bottom line here is that native ads, AdSense, which is a little simpler than native ads, you're actually got to really, really make sure that you're getting the highest return on investment on that ad. And here's the thing, think about it from Google's perspective. If Matt was to include a number here, which we've talked about, that number would go up depending upon the authority of your site, because obviously you get paid more for an AdSense ad if you have a super high domain authority site that's ranking #1 across thousands of keywords, right? And that begs another question. If you're getting paid $4 a click for an AdSense ad on your site, wouldn't you make a lot more money, don't you think, if you were able to work out a deal with a company and sell the product, or else have ad rev? I mean, there are some people that would rather just make money on the ad revenue. Give me a 1 if there's anybody in here that actually does focus 100% on third-party ad revenue, native ads, or AdSense, just so I know. The early 2000s model, just give me a 1 if you're an AdSense or an AdWords or an ad revenue preneur. A 2 if you're not, please. Make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, so 2 of you are. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so that being said, just keep in mind that we use DWS, AnyBuilder, these various versions of this application, primarily to focus on a revenue model based on productization. And interestingly enough, when I have the numbers that Matt provides on this screen, it's actually much easier for me to determine whether or not I'm getting paid enough for a native ad. Give me a 1 if you understand that, a native ad or an AdSense ad. Give me a 1 if that makes sense, and 2 if that's fuzzy, because I don't know how well I'm explaining this. Yeah, think about that, right? If I look, let's say I finish a site and I look at this, there may not be any traffic. When that traffic starts to spike based on rankings, immediately how much you can make on an ad goes up. Does that make sense? Okay. It's just a funny thing. Hopefully most of you know that, I've seen AdSense. One of my friends has an AdSense template on his site that he gets $6 to $7 per click on those ads. Now that site's been around for a long time, and it's not even very well siloed. Had he built these kinds of strategies into his original network, probably he'd have some more thematically congruent clusters on that site, and he might even be able to make a little bit more. But most of what you get as a advanced AdSense seller, and of course it's definitely true in native ads, is, once you pass their standards, is the higher quality of the site, the more thematically relevant, the higher it's ranked, and the more traffic, the more money you earn. So that's why, if you're going to be building an ad-focused site, not necessarily recommending that, but you're going to want to have these numbers as precursors. That's all I would really say about that, Matt, for now.
Cool. Yeah, guys, like they say, marketing is maths, and it's all exponential. It all grows. As the more traffic you bring in, the greater the turnover is going to actually be within your business. So the next question was the site opt-in conversion rate. Yeah, this is looking at list building. We check this number in because on the exports, we get those numbers coming back out again. It's not something we use very much. At the time, we just put it in because we thought it might become useful. But typically what that does is it looks at the conversion rate for your opt-in. So if you've got like a 3% or 5% opt-in onto your list, then that's what this field covers over here. It's purely email opt-in list building. Okay. Right, so that's basically how we set up a project within DWS, and that's what we're starting the project off with. So we basically know that, actually I need to just change some of those numbers again. Let me just make sure they're all right. For the next one here, 1%, we got that one there. 25, that's 5. That's like that, that's fine. Let's update that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is once we know our numbers, now we can go actually start importing our keyword data in, because in the back of our minds, we know already off the top of the head, we need 4,000 people a month. We're selling a product for $500 a sale, and we know what our conversions are through our list. So this is where we jump into the silo framework. Now, everything we do in the silo framework gets carried through all these modules all the way through. But we need to create the silo framework before we can actually start seeing any of these reports working. If we just import keywords into the silo framework, the cost calculations and none of those things are going to actually work because they've got nothing to calculate off. Does that make sense, guys? So make sure you're clear on that right now. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the silo framework. And this is the heart and soul of the whole application. This is where we bring all the data together. And basically, the screen has a few functions. One, we can create the silo architecture for our site. So on the left-hand side here, remember I showed you we're targeting hair salon. This is essentially the index page of the website. Okay, and to add silos to the index page, we just got to click on the silo hair salon, and any silo we add will drop underneath it. Then the way this works is whatever keyword you click on, whatever node you click on over here, and whatever keywords you select, they will get moved underneath it as children. Can you give me one if you're clear on that? So the theme that you select becomes the parent. The keywords you check off in the first column over here will become the children of that, i.e. one step down. So when we look at this, we've got the domain, we've got the silos. So at the moment we're here on the domain, the hair salon, that's the index page, that's the root of the site. The silos are going to be set within the root, and the categories are going to be set within that there, so we can actually open it up. Okay, so you can see I've clicked on wedding and weddings come up there. That means that's the parent. We can see where we are at all times. Okay, so we'll have a quick sip of water here. Off the top of your list, guys, when you're on the silo framework screen, what are the most burning questions? Let's just get those typed out now and fire them across, because I don't want to just talk randomly. I'd rather speak to specific things that are confusing you guys or you're not sure about. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give you a brief idea of what's actually going on the screen. Now, when we look at the interface, what we have here is we have the entire process in this top row over here. As we move across this top navigation bar, we can create an ISDNA. This is where we click in through to Paint Finder. We can then go to our silo framework. We can map out our site design. We can look at our keywords. We can drop down into the actual keyword and see the keyword decision rules. So we can actually look at why things are doing what they're doing. We can filter keywords. we can reset our filters over here, and we can actually create a cost analysis. When you click on this, let me do this again. The blueprint cost analysis, this does a lot of heavy lifting with the SQL queries that we wrote to actually work us all out. So it takes a few seconds, sometimes up to 15 seconds, depending on how big your actual silo structure is. And when you click that link, I'm going to let it run while I speak. What it's going to do is going to actually look across your whole blueprint. It's going to look at all the keywords you've excluded. It's going to look at the cost of all the keywords, and then it's going to come back and say what's the actual cost for your website at any point in time as you're building out your site. Often it takes a few seconds just to load up. So while that's going, what I'm actually going to do is I'll add some text just to make it so it doesn't look like it's a white screen. Here's a question from Paul. He's saying, would we get penalized if the silo is wedding and the category is wedding invitations, or have wedding / invitations? Yes. You don't want to have the keyword mentioned more than twice within the URL structure, guys. So with DWS, I'm going to show you how you can actually edit it on screen here if you want to tweak a keyword and move it across. It's a bit of a hack because it skews the data, so I don't recommend doing it, but if you have to do something quickly, I'll show you how to do that. But typically what we do is with the silo plugin, when we actually import the keywords in, we do the editing, the SEO editing on the actual WordPress blog. If you import more keywords later on, those edits that you made will not be overwritten, purely because each XML file has a unique key in it. So we know that this keyword's actually been added into WordPress when we actually import the keywords in. So when we re-import the XML file again, it will just hop over that unique identifier, and it won't overwrite the changes that you've actually made. Okay, but I don't recommend having wedding. Okay, that's going to get you guys penalized. With DWS, what we're doing here is we're mapping out the keywords we want to target within the structure, and then we're adjusting them on the site. But we actually want to keep record of what is the exact keyword we're after when we design our site architecture. That's typically the way I like to work. In the new version of any builder, when it comes out, when we're doing the rewrite, a lot of these things will be up to date with the standards that Jimmy Kelley set for us and all those kind of things. Okay. Stephen's asking, is the purpose of the subdomain level promotion? I don't understand your question, Stephen. Could you just add a bit more to that question, please? Rob's asking, often there's no suggestion categories, at least in the niche I've been working on, but plenty of suggested silos. Is it okay to use a keyword that are suggested as silos or categories? Yes, guys. I'm going to come back to your question. It's a very important one, Rob. Guys, remember, you guys are the architects, and you got to tell the story. Don't let the machine will tell you what you have to say. Okay, you must say what you want to say. And if you feel that a silo keyword basically belongs within the silo, you can have a silo and you can have a silo underneath it. Don't let that terminology or that technical idea skew you. I'll show you what it does when you do it. It flags it for you, puts a little red X next to it, just to say that you've moved a bigger keyword underneath a parent. But it's not going to be the end of the world, if I can put it that way. If it works for what you're trying to build out, then don't stress about it, because remember, user experience trumps technical most of the time. We have to create transactions. We don't have to please the search engines too much, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. David's asking, is there a way to view these values without having to click on an analysis button each time? David, with the blueprint cost overview, I'm going to show you the reports later on where we can actually look at all this kind of stuff. If it's not there, then I'll migrate it. But at the moment, on this actual screen, this is what we can see is when we bring these numbers up, we can actually look at the mix that's coming in over here. We can actually look at the whole thing. But basically what this does is it looks at our budget. It tells us how much budget we got left. So there I've put a 500 in, and I'm way over budget. It shows me what it's going to cost me to develop this out, writing all the content, all that kind of stuff. And then it gives us the direct sales, what does it mean to the business, and what does it mean as an affiliate when you look into this. How many keywords are flagged? So this gives you a summary of what you've mapped out over here. Okay, so I'm going to come back. In the report section over here, Dave, I think this is going to help you a lot with what you're trying to achieve from the help desk tickets I've seen. So I'm going to spend some time over here and talk you through the cost analysis and how we use that over there. So we'll be coming back to that, David. Paul's asking, so is it important to exclude keywords if you're not going to use them in the list? Yes. Basically, if I want to add a keyword, I build sites sometimes, and what I do is I go for keywords just purely, I call them placeholder keywords. I need to create structure, but it's not necessarily meaning I want to promote that actual keyword. So what I do is, if I'm going to add a silo, but I'm not going to actually physically promote it, I want to just flag it that I've excluded it. And I check the second column, so I'll tick those two. And what that does, excuse me, is it excludes that keyword. So when we look at the promotional plans and stuff, we sort of got a flag that says, okay, this keyword is not to be promoted. But when we're creating the story from a site design perspective, when we're creating the architecture, sometimes you've got to use a bigger keyword higher up the vertical to make it easier for the user to identify what they want to do. So for example, if someone's interested in wedding, they'll go look at the wedding hair stuff over here. Whereas someone's looking for makeup, they'll go to makeup. It's pretty clear what's going on over here in this example that I've mapped out for you guys. We could have wedding, makeup, and wedding dresses. They could all these silos could be placeholder keywords. The thing is, once your site's up and it's running and you start ranking for the supporting articles or you start ranking for the categories, basically when you track your keywords like I do in AWS Cloud, you'll see that these silo placeholder pages are actually moving up. So you're not physically promoting them, but they're actually inheriting the domain authority that's coming back into the site. And they're also moving up into rankings. So you're not physically spending money on that actual promotion, but when the time comes for you to actually do it, you might have 6 months, 12 months behind you, and those keywords might be sitting in position 20 to 10, somewhere around there. Then you can do a small assault on that actual keyword and focus on getting it ranked if you want to. And it will reduce your actual cost doing it later on rather than doing it upfront, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question over there, Rob? Okay. Stephen Petit said, other than beginning with broad terms, what else can we do to give the system the best opportunity to provide the most appropriate results? We have run reports in the past for what we consider to be competitive niches in competitive markets, but they came back with less than optimal results from for a project. Simply, you want to be sure if it wasn't a matter of our input rather than poor project opportunity. Stephen, are you speaking about when you've imported your keyword data in, the conversions that you set up were making these keywords negative? There's a few things that can actually impact the results on this page. If we go across to the business rules and filters tab that you'll see at the top over here, there's your budget that you set for the project. It could be one thing that's impacting the results. And then it's obviously the search engine click-through and it's the on-page click-through. Those are the two things. The conversions are too low. If your project seems like it's not making money, then try and increase your conversion rates to try and get the model to work. That's typically what I do there to actually sculpt the data. If that doesn't work, then it's often just a case of there's not enough traffic for you to actually meet those objectives that you're trying to achieve, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question, Steve? Because remember, the keyword decision screens, it's a modeling engine, and we keep on tweaking out the conversions over here to make things better. If I took this to 1% and I updated that, you can see I needed much more traffic to actually meet the 10,000. So the thing that you want to be able to do is change your development cost and change those two numbers over there. Sorry, those two over there. So Steve says, yes, mainly we want to be sure that we are not abandoning a project that should be pursued. Yes,
have
Steve,
you, have you answered,
you know this, sorry.
Have you answered Stephen's first one, Matt? Or?
Yeah, no, I just asked for clarification.
It's a very good question, and one I can also help you address.
Yeah, sure. You can chip in anytime,
Okay.
Russ.
Did you read the question out loud yet? Or I might have missed that. I just
yes.
turned away. You read it out already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess one of the things I was wondering is what data he used to import into the builder? Stephen, did you use Kraken or did you use TLKT or both or neither, or where are you getting your data from? TLKT. One thing that I, in all honesty, do to address the question that you just had is I make sure that I use TLKT first. It's a 3-cycle process that was laid out by Sue Bell a couple of years back, which we still use today and works really, really well. And also when Trident comes out, will be made even more ridiculously automated than it is. But the reason I like to do that is it creates for me a first line of defense against oversight. What you're describing here is when you begin with a broad term, what else can we do to give the system the best opportunity to provide the most appropriate results? We have run reports in the past and we consider it to be competitive niches, right, in competitive markets, but they came back with less than optimum results for a project. And again, I would have to know more about precisely what you decided was less than optimal. One of the things that you have to realize, and where it gets a little bit weird, is that if optimal means for you that the keyword decision screen, the business rules that Matt is showing you were problematic, then you're going to want to tweak a little bit your mindset. For instance, if you're looking for KEI or you're a low-hanging fruit kind of model, you know, like a keyword sniping, one of the things I do see people get confused about is when they approach a system like ours with a sniping mindset, things kind of go backwards. And Kraken prevents that from really happening. The reason Kraken combined with everything that Matt's showing you today prevents that from happening, because we've tried to write into the system, and Matt has actually done a really great job of this, where it understands that it's cheaper by the dozen when you silo. In other words, it's easier and less expensive in some ways to target large clusters of terms rather than it is to snipe off one difficult term. So the reason that Kraken does a good job of doing that is after going through the 3 cycles, you're able to look at the total search market value before you even bring it in as a project. That's what I like to do, is the 3 cycle, and then then when I build out my site, I'll go to any builder or DWS. And what happens at that point is you already have a pretty good idea on the total search market value. It's called the theme cluster screen in Kraken. It gives me a pretty good idea of how much money there really is in the market, and then I let any builder make it really clear about, you know, how much kind of content and all the other stuff that Matt's been showing you, how much I'm actually going to need. Does that make a little bit more sense, Stephen? I mean, you can do it with TLKT as well. I just happen to like the overview, meaning the full Kraken process before, if I have a really large project and the terms are really, really competitive, and I really, really need to make sure that I know where all the most expensive dollars are in the market before going down into niches, I'll use Kraken. And that does resolve some of those issues or preps you a little bit better. Does that make sense, Stephen?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and drop, Stephen, I'm going to drop the updated user manual that we're working on now, just so you know how that process works. And again, you don't have to do that. You can still use TLKT. I just do find that it gives me a little bit more refinement, especially for super, super competitive things, where you have an industry that's just rich with niches. You know what I mean? Where there's like, you know, 20 or 40 different kinds of niches. It gives me a better perspective. And then, you know, during the import function, it's like a line of first defense. Actually, Paul is asking, will the manual show how to leverage TLKT to get a similar result? Actually, I'm trying to, it was actually Dave who's on the call actually who urged me to refine the current Kraken manual that I'm dropping in here for everybody. I have to find out from Sue if there is a similar TLKT manual for us to brush up. I believe there is. So if I don't have that now, Paul, we are working on one. One of the things to again, the challenge that we always have is we're making an incredibly amazing shift over the next few months where TLKT is going to be gradually integrated into the new DWS or the new any builder system. So, you know, there's a couple things going on. I'll try to pull out the old manual, but that's going to change pretty rapidly over the next few months. I believe Sue is, I don't know if Sue's on the call still.
Yeah, I am.
So I'm not sure how to really address the user help manual.
So
side of things.
I'm actually in the middle of doing a whole new set of videos for TLKT.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be out shortly. And then the new version of the keyword tool that's going to come out will be rolled out kind of slowly. So
right.
because it's going to be substantially different. So
Yeah.
we won't get rid of TLKT until we've got all the functionality in the new tools.
Okay. So that manual that we just pulled out last week, Sue, for Kraken, that I took that we just refined, that can still go out pretty much, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Kraken. Kraken's fine. Okay.
It's Kraken, yeah.
So I just dropped that into you guys, and that's the word. So Sue is making a complete new video things. So we'll get that to you, Paul, as well. We'll let everybody know.
What I'd say, guys, is if you're using TLKT, what you want to do is just use the filters that we've created just to refine the data before you import it into DWS. So you end up getting a lot of single terms that dominate and are super huge. So basically the way the tool works is if you're going to push a large data set in that's got a lot of keywords you're not going to really use, then it's going to skew things and you have to dig deeper down into the data set and start using filters on the keyword decision screen to get these ideas. But typically if your project's not making money, if it's not breaking even or it's not looking profitable and you're getting a lot of red X's on the right-hand side over here, then go and tweak your conversions. Just play around with the conversion rules to find what is a good for this market you're going to enter into. That typically helps quite a bit. Okay, so Steve, are you happy with that question? Did that answer your question there? So I'm going to come back to Steven's question. He says, well, your example, local.minisite.com would promote the main site, just that the subdomain doesn't appear to be part of the site structure. Right, I see what you're saying, Stephen. Okay, I understand your question. Yeah, at the moment, you're not going to have the subdomain over here, because remember, when you build a site, it's actually living within the subdomain, the same as it is on the top-level domain. So that's why we don't actually show it there. The reason why I showed you this was if the guys are doing niche stuff, the thing that you're after on the local side, be aware of how the power flows through a domain and put your important keywords over here so you don't over optimize on the right hand side. So use the left, the subdomain, and on the right you dig deeper into the silo structure and you actually target more of the keywords as you go further down into the actual local type of stuff. Okay, but when we're looking at this type of build, within the scope of the empire, we'll have the domain would be one site. We could then have 5 different subdomains, which each will be a site that would look like this as well. Just that will be plumbers, electricians, carpenters, carpet layers, carpet cleaners, kitchen builders, whatever the things are. Those all appear over there, and then you have your structures underneath it. Does that clarify that for you, Stephen? Exactly. Yeah, for niching, you add the power to the domain. So you use the subdomain for the primary keyword, and then you basically juice it up that way. Okay, so coming back to the keyword decision screen, we've got the process at the top. We've then got the exports. This is the export which basically shows us the grid. We can basically see the silo, the categories, the supporting articles. We can see our keyword DNA braid over here, and then we can basically see all the stuff. So here we can see if a keyword's been excluded or not. So once you've mapped your project out, you can basically save the spreadsheet, push it up to Google Docs, and you can tell your team to do what they want to do, or you can send this to a client or whatever you want to do. And it gives them the complete rundown of what you've mapped out plus all the numbers associated with it. Okay, so that comes from this big hammer and blueprint chisel over here. The next thing we have here is essentially our checklist. And basically on each screen, it gives you tips. It gives you some ideas of what you need to do. Okay, so that's what that does there. The next thing is our progress, how far we're down the process. And if you had to read through this is almost the whole build process all the way through. Designing a site, technical foundation, importing keywords, step by step, all the steps running all the way through. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into that. It's not that important. And then we've got the help here as well. For each screen that we come onto, there's a section that tells you what you're doing and explains the stuff for you. So there's a lot of information over here that you can use when you're on each different screen. Okay, so let's look at this. For this screen over here, everything originates from this control over here, and these keywords. So I'm going to basically just click on wedding as an example, just to show you what opens up. When we click on the wedding, we actually select it as the parent. Now when that's done, we can run through this list and we can bind any keywords we want to this keyword here. Now, what's important to think about when you're looking at these keywords is each keyword that we add at a silo level. For example, if we hover over weddings, it's saying the SSA, the suggested summary articles is 20 for wedding. Okay, they're saying basically in the wedding theme, we should have roughly about 20 articles. Okay, and that perspective is from internal linking. It's an internal linking perspective. When you've got a strong internal linking structure, and if it's possible to build that out, you have to do less promotions on the inbound links coming back into your site. Does it make sense to you guys? So to make sure that you guys are clear on it, because when you build a silo structured site, you're creating a series of internal links that are creating a theme. The search engines read that theme, they understand that theme, and then they look at that theme in context across all the other themes in your site, and then they get a global idea of what the site's about, and that's how they rank and score you. Okay. Okay, so when we map out a silo structure, essentially we'll have the domain, silo wedding, categories or wedding ideas, and so we go on. Okay, all these are interconnected. With our silo plugin and the deep silo plugin, when you import the XML, those two plugins will do all the internal linking for you on the WordPress side of things. You don't have to worry about that. It's all done. All you got to do is import the XML, go to your widgets, drag your widget into your column, and that's your internal linking structure done. It's as simple as that. There's no rocket science. That's just it. It's like 4 steps and you've siloed your whole site on WordPress. There's nothing that's going to be really complicated. Okay, the only thing you want to do then is come back and clean up things like wedding will have /ideas, /hair, /makeup. We can lose the wedding stuff. So on the silo side of things, on the SEO side of things, on the WordPress side of, we can extract the keywords that are duplicating. That's where we use Screaming Frog as an example. You run it over the whole site, you look at all the URLs, you just quickly go into WordPress, clean the slugs up, and with the latest versions of the silo plugins, it basically, you just change the slug and everything falls into place. Before we had to go tweak a few places, now it's just go to the slug, change the slug, but you must go edit, then go to edit, change slug. So you actually want to open up the page, you want to change the page there, and then you want to basically save it, and it works a treat. It basically helps you optimize the whole site. Okay, does that answer your question there, Paul? Okay, so you come here, you map your site out, you hop across and publish it. You can take any of these type of XMLs or how you want them to come into your site. You import them in. You go to Appearance Widgets, drag it across, drop it into menu, then you go into your menus and you just tweak out your menu, create the order of how you want it to look in your site, and that's the job done. It's really, really fast. When it comes to WordPress, we've automated nearly all the work for you guys. It's just a matter of getting your content in and tweaking things just to be optimized. Okay, so when we look at a theme, each row here is essentially a theme if you think about it. Makeup artist is a theme. There's many things that can happen within makeup artist. There's many things that can happen under haircuts. There's many things that can happen under wedding photographers. So when we look at the columns, we can see the competing pages, we can see the search volume, we can see the conversions, how many conversions potentially we'll make, i.e. people that have gone through our sales funnel and come out at the end and bought something. We can see how much it's going to take to rank for these keywords. So here, for example, on this keyword, we've got 120,000 pages phrase match on this data set we're looking at, and it's saying we need roughly 11 suggested backlinks. The number is 11, just purely because it's such a small term. Okay. If we come into our business rules, this is quite important. If you come into your business rules and you start looking at the domain authority of the site, basically always set it to basically whatever the range is. So if on typical, the top 10 guys are typically between 20, 30, and 40, and these are the guys who are your competitors, not the authority sites, then set this over here to 30 or 20 or 40. Okay. If all your physical competitors are greater, set the number up. The higher you set this number, the greater the amount of content and cost there's going to be, because it's going to be, you're going to have to build a bigger site. Does that make sense to you guys? Can you just give me one if you're clear on that? So if you see Wikipedia and you see a whole bunch of authority sites, don't set your domain authority to 80, 90, 100, okay? Set it to what your competitors are who are ranking on page 1, because that's who you're going to compete against. They're fighting the same battle as you. They're all dealing with the authority sites. You just have to beat them to take the traffic that they have. That's your only job over there. Okay, so here at the competitor average domain, select it to what it is. That then will adjust the whole data set for you based on their competitive edge, and it will suggest roughly how big that theme needs to be that you want to create. Okay. Does that make sense to you guys? You sort of understand that each keyword that you look at here is potentially a theme. And this is where things get a little bit weird. As we're mapping out the silo structure, if we're dealing with the wedding theme, we can see that when we hover over it, we need roughly 20 articles on the site. When we're looking at the hair, we're needing roughly 20. When we're looking at makeup, we need 14. So at a minimum, to start your site off, you need a minimum of 3 to 5 pages for the actual silo to create a theme. So what I recommend doing is, when you're starting off on your site, get your first 5 pages out there, get the site live, get it up there and running, then come back and tweak and add, because once the site's live and you've connected Google to it, in Webmaster Tools, you start seeing the search volumes coming through, and you start seeing what people are typing in. And then you can start building out over time. You can buffer out the silos, make them bigger and deeper if you want. Okay. You can also go horizontally. You can go across the categories and the supporting articles. So if you've got a big category, you can flesh that big category out simply by clicking on it, professional makeup. Then you can have what the professional makeup services are that you offer, and you can stick them in underneath professional makeup. That's what I mean when I say we're fleshing the site out horizontally. We're going deeper in the site. We're adding content deeper down. That makes the site a bit more fatter. Does that clarify things for you guys? Here's 2 questions from David. What if there are 4 or 5 authority sites for most keywords? For example, in real estate, Zillow, Triller, Redfin, exact. Yeah, David, with those things, you're going to have to do advanced techniques to basically get those guys pushed out of the way. You can push the domain authority up, but what it's going to do is it's going to actually make the cost of your blueprint more expensive. So it depends on what you want to say to your client at that point in time if you're doing client work. Okay. Typically, when I do my own projects, I focus on who I'm competing with. I don't focus on the actual authority sites, because I want to see what my cost is. But what's nice about DWS is you can actually create 2 blueprints. You can actually create a model, export out the spreadsheet here, which is a client's version, and then you can create your own internal version, and you can actually reduce it so you can see what your cost is versus what their cost is, and that helps you assess what profit you potentially can make off that project when looking at it. And also, the higher the domain authority is, the more the time to rank increases. In fact, it's interesting, the more competitive a site is that you're competing with, the more it increases your IT debt. So you've got to think of creative ways to reduce that debt so that you make more profit, if that makes sense. Okay. Stephen's saying here, hair salon is a local service. Does Google treat the rankings as local, duration, national? Yes, Stephen, with hair salon, like with the Sassy site, for example, we've not gone the traditional local one with putting modifiers in the actual URL structure. We just put that in the copy, and that was purely because the city we're dealing with is so small. We don't need to get too fancy. Just by having the address and doing the right markup in the actual site, the search engine understands exactly what it needs to know, and it's off on its way. We don't have to get too fancy with that kind of stuff. So for me, the site design was more for the user experience than the search engines on that particular instance. Okay, so guys, do you understand the concept behind what each row means over here? So each row, basically the cost is, if we're going to focus on the wedding invitations theme, we either have to create 13 posts, i.e. to create backlinks, so this is 13 promotional articles, or we have to create 6 internal articles. The cost is factored off this suggested articles section over here. Okay, but the backlinks, it gives us an idea over there, so we can look at those costs. Yeah, it's basically the backlinks. This is what both of their cost. Because if it's 25, I'll show you. 25 times 6 gives us 150 plus 13 times 25. That's wrong. 25 plus 6. I must look at those calculations. I'll get that back to you, Dave, to give you guys the exact thing. I'll just do a little video on that to tell you that. I haven't looked at it in a while. But essentially, the costs are made up by these numbers over here. The supporting articles plus 73 is 21. I'll get back to you shortly about it. I just need to get a check. I'll confirm it for you, David. Okay, so this is caused a lot of confusion over here. Direct sales and indirect sales. Okay, the direct sales, basically this is calculated at whatever you make times the conversions. So if we've got 333 conversions times 500, which is what we're selling our product for, this is the direct sales. The indirect sales is essentially coming from the business rules screen, and this is looking at, it's actually quite an interesting little calculation. When we look at the list conversion and what we expect the list conversion to be, so i.e. we've got X amount of people going into our list and then X amount of those people actually will buy something, the indirect sales is essentially looking at the potential of what can these people make me over time, if that makes sense. So, for example, if we've got a wiki on our site, that creates indirect sales. If we're sending emails out to our list, that creates indirect sales. If we're doing a video and people are coming to our site, that creates indirect sales. That's what that number basically comes from. So we can play around with those conversions and we can see the difference between the two. At the moment, they're both set the same, so that's why it's identical. Does that make sense to you guys? The difference between direct sales and indirect sales per month? Indirect sales is everything else coming into the web ring, i.e. email, video, all the other channels, Facebook, all those kind of things. Direct sales is essentially, if we're just doing the website, what we can potentially earn. So to make sure you guys understand that. Because remember, when you build your web ring, on your WR1, you can have a wiki, you can have a blog, you got your money site, you could have some subdomains. Each of them are all bringing traffic in collectively to one place, but they're not going directly to your WR1 money site. So that's what those calculations are based off over there. So we can actually look at two different views of what potentially can be made. Okay. Now the last thing here is return on investment, 2 months and 12 months. These dollar numbers, when you hover over them, it basically tells you, once you rank the position number 1, roughly what you can earn. And the same goes from an annual perspective. You can see what a keyword works for you. So often what you'll see is things like this. When you're going for this keyword, casual wedding dress, for example, initially it's going to cost you money. You're just not going to break even. But if you look at it from a yearly perspective, that keyword is going to make you profit of $3,000 a month once you rank for that keyword based on what the earnings are. So with these little flags over here, we can very quickly see what's going to make us money as soon as we rank versus what's going to make us over the year, and what is more of a long-term keyword versus the short-term once we ranked. That's what those two flags show us. The break even, this column over here, basically is our business rule. If it's a green flag, it means all the business rules have been met. It's within our budget, it's making us profit, and it's going to be a profitable keyword in it. That's what it actually means. So guys, can you give me one if you actually understand what the meaning of all the data is on each row in the actual screen here? So make sure you guys are clear on this. So with that said, now that you have an understanding of what the data means, then it comes to our actual website design. We can now start telling a story, and this is what we do when we do silo architecture. We actually create a story. We mapping out the bare bones of the actual site. And this is the framework that we're building. So when we're talking about wedding at a hair salon, we're focusing on bridal hair, professional makeup, wedding hair and makeup, hairstyles. These are all the things that we are going to be speaking about within that theme. Okay, so once we mapped out our silo structure, the next thing we want to do is we want to hop across to our keyword DNA braid. Okay, this is the next module. And what this allows us to do is essentially bind keywords to the specific keywords. So same as the keyword decision screen, we click on the node that we're interested in. We can see it over here. If you click on this little button here, it gives you some ideas of what's going on. But essentially, when we look at the contextual words for wedding page, these are all the keywords that are in the silo. That will be on navigation. Those are all the keywords going to show up. Okay. We can add synonyms for anchor text, or we can bind supporting keywords for the actual articles. And the way we go about doing that is we simply just type our keywords in, we add them, and then we'll actually see them over here. So for example, over here you can see we've got wedding hair makeup in the locale, wedding hair makeup in the actual city. So in this instance, what I've done is I've used the DNA braid to put my locale keywords in. So when we're writing the copy, we can actually target those keywords in there. Okay. So that's what we're doing as a DNA braid. We're mapping out the words we want to use within the actual article when we write the article. Does that make sense to you guys? So as we run through all our nodes, we put our DNA braids in. This is where I use TLKT a lot. This is where I use the creamy filter. This is where I use the other filter I wrote for you guys the other day, which looks at the partial and impartial keywords. So we're not using the exact match, but we're using different variations of thematically relevant keywords. And I look for keywords with high search volume, keywords that fit into the actual story, and then I just drop those in as I'm going through TLKT. I just copy and paste them in, I add them, and then when we look at our blueprint over here, we can see all our DNA braid keywords coming in. So for each page, if we're talking about hair accessories, with hair accessory, how to make hair accessories, there's all kinds of keywords that we have over here that we can use within the copy. Okay. Do you guys understand what the keyword DNA is? I just want to make sure, I'm going to start right at the beginning and make sure you guys understand the terminology of the keyword DNA. Okay, cool. So basically, when we look at the synonym set within a DNA braid, the contextual keywords are the keywords that are going to appear on the actual page. And these are the keywords that are going to appear when we drag a widget onto our WordPress page into a column. That's going to be the silo navigation. Okay. When we go into WordPress, we can actually tweak them out and make more persuasion type of clickable headlines for each article on our page. But essentially at the root, when it comes in the first time, that's what you're going to see. The synonyms for wedding would be, well, a wedding's a wedding, but let's just choose a different keyword. For example, bridal makeup. Bride's makeup, wedding makeup. A synonym of bridal makeup is wedding makeup. It's the synonyms of those words. We can use those. Those can be used as anchor text. They can be used in the copy, but those are the ones we specified and identified as being important to the story we're telling. Okay. Now, what I'd like to suggest you guys is don't go mad and add 50 keywords. Keep it down to 3 to 5 keywords. Keep it very thin. Don't add hundreds of keywords because all it does is clutter your page, and when the people come to write the copy, they're never going to use most of those keywords. So only choose the things that are most important to the topic that you're dealing with. This is the key to your keyword DNA. Have 2 to 3 words that are important. That's what you want to find. The rest will just happen by themselves, but it's those important words that you want to drop in the copy as we're writing the copy. Okay, so you got to think about the market personality, you got to think about the persuasion, you got to think about what you want to say to them, how you're going to present your solution, and then the words that fit into that, you basically want to bring those in. The supporting keywords is the same idea. Bridal makeup tips, mother of the bride makeup, bridal makeup tutorials. These are all ideas that the user can, when we write the article, we can use when we're actually doing it. So when we're talking about bridal tutorials, like makeup tutorials, at the hair salon, the girls will basically give classes and teach people how to do makeup. So we can lead them into an actual course, which makes more money for the actual business. So when I'm doing these DNA braid keywords, I'm always thinking about the business, I'm thinking about the user, the market personality, the product, the offer, the service, and I'm thinking, okay, what words can we use to upsell or tell a better story? Does that clarify the keyword DNA braid screen for you, the purpose of it? This is where we start looking at what are the important words that must go actually on that page. Robert's saying, do we need to make sure we do not add more DNA keywords than we match with the articles ongoing? Yeah, guys, keep it thin. I've seen guys come into the DNA screen and they go mad and they copy paste 50 keywords in, but it's just a pointless exercise. You're diluting your whole project. Not it's going to dilute anything, but it's making it harder to work with the project because there's so much data. We're trying to keep things focused, we're trying to keep things thin, and we're trying to focus on the most important words within a market or vertical that we want to dominate. So keep them 2 to 3 keywords, and you'll find when you come to write the articles, they're there. You might go away from a project for 2 months, but when you come back, it's just there. It refreshes you. Oh yes, we're doing this, and you can just move on. So that's the whole point of this, is keeping track of all these moving parts. David's asking, is the top article citations and the bottom anchor text or the other way around? I don't understand your question, David. Could you clarify that for me, please? So essentially what we have here is contextual keywords. This is what happens. This pops up in the actual wedding, in the navigation. Now you can see we've dropped down into a category. So we just got bridal makeup. We're in the actual category. Synonyms have been identified for anchor texts. For bridal makeup is wedding makeup and bride's makeup. And then our supporting keywords, these are the keywords that we potentially can use within our article or in our blog posts when we're doing our promotions. Okay. Are you guys clear on this whole screen? Or is there any other questions in regards to what the DNA braid is and why we use it? So in summary, the DNA braid are the building blocks of the actual copy, and they're important to the silo framework. So we come from silo framework into DNA. There's our framework. We've now bound keywords to them, which has given us the keyword ideas that are relevant to the page we're going to create over here. So these are the keywords that have traffic. They've got a above average co-occurrence, and they're related to that term. Do we use all the keywords? Sometimes we don't, but it's good to have them there. You want to give your writers the freedom. Okay, so the next thing we have is the team management. This is basically when you've got guys working for you and you want to track their time and you want to see how busy they are. It's a nice little interesting thing that I built out. Basically the way this works is if you've got a team member, you can add a team member, and what it does is you just log the username and passwords, create it all up there. You can say how many times a month. It keeps track of how much time they've got allocated for them. So when you're doing multiple projects and you start assigning tasks to actual team members, it keeps track of their time, and you can quickly see if you're working with 10 guys, you can quickly see which guys are getting swamped and which guys don't have work. That's basically what this module does for you over here. Okay, that's what it's all about. It's just a time tracking system. The next is the site content. Now this is when we write articles. It's quite detailed. We can bind articles to a specific user. We can say what the article's for and where it's going in the web ring. What grade of content do we want? How long we want the article? How many hours we want to allocate to the writing of the article, and what's the price we want to pay. Now, when we set the price over here for a particular article that we've ticked off over here, then all those articles will get assigned to a specific person, and we can see it's written or it's ordered. When the article is written and the writer's actually signed off as written, we can actually see the article over here with a green tick. When it's been assigned but not written, it's still in edit mode, and when it's not assigned, it's got the little red dot at the bottom. Okay, so if you want to have your content written and kept in DWS, then the site content screen basically allows you to do that. You can look at the tasks for the month, the completed tasks. You can see all the tasks, and this basically shows you different views of what's happening with your content if you're writing it and keeping it within the system. You can also transfer or delete tasks just by clicking on this link over here. Okay, so here we can see our hair salon, and we can check as the content has been written, we can see different things. When we click on the actual link over here, it opens up the content editor, and what you get to see here, guys, is your synonyms and your supporting keywords. And basically, if you want to talk about wedding hair, you can basically just drop the things. You just highlight them, and you can just drop them in, and you can type and do what you want to do. You can give your project a name. You can set your meta titles, your keywords, your descriptions, the synopsis. You can type it all in over here, set when it must be published, and when you click update content, that's going to save that article, and when we come to actually publish the site, it's going to carry that into the XML. And when you import it with the Silo plugins, that article is going to get injected into the actual page. So you'll see your site just pop up with that article written. Then you can go in and format it and do what you want to do. So the content thing is pretty cool. I like it. I use it when I build my sites. So what I do then is all I have to do is optimize my URLs, go tweak a few things. But I spend most of my time here working on my headlines and all that kind of stuff before I push it into the site. And then when I do the imports, I hoover it in, tweak it, focus mainly on the SEO and not writing content, and then I'll get the site basically indexed and I move on. Have you guys actually seen these screens before, the site content screens, or been aware of them? I'm not sure. Just give me one or not. Okay, so that's another cool feature DWS Pro has, which allows you to archive your content. If your site gets blown up or hacked or whatever, and you have to rebuild the thing, what's great about that, one of the features here is you can just re-import an XML and it takes you back to where you were. What we teach the guys in the Tech Foundation courses though is to back up your sites using like WP Manage or other backup systems and make sure that your site's kept fresh and backed up incrementally over the months. So if something goes wrong, you just roll up your backup and you don't have to go through all the work. But this is like another level of security that if that fails, you can at least roll back to the original stuff that you had done. Okay, so this is what's available here under the site content. Okay, website blueprint. Once we built our site and we're ready to explore it, what we can do over here is we can essentially map out our Silo framework, create a DNA braid, and we can hop across to website blueprint and we can actually export it. Now, when we export the blueprint, we got basically 5 different formats that we can do. So we can have some done ordered by search volume, we can have it ordered by competing pages, we can have a custom navigation, and we can have a site blueprint. Now I'm just going to hop back to Silo Framework. There's something that's very important I forgot to show you guys. Paul's asking a good question here. The plugins that you need, if you create supporting articles, you need the deep Silo plugin. If you're just using silos and categories, you can just use the normal Silo plugin. Okay, so simple Silo for silos and categories, deep for silos, categories, and supporting articles. That's the difference between the plugins. I forgot to show you guys the Manage Blueprint screen. I just want to go through this quickly. The Manage Blueprint screen basically takes us into the actual silo architecture, and we can go manage the keywords. We can actually delete keywords out of our blueprint. If we delete a keyword, it'll delete the whole node. If we lose keywords, we can find them under the orphans. But essentially, the way the Manage Blueprint works is when keywords are linked, we cannot move a keyword back into the blueprint until we actually get rid of those 9 categories. Okay, so I'm going to go to Category Manager, and I'm going to show you something here. This little green arrow, what it shows you is what your budget is, the keyword, and it allows you to actually, if you want to push that keyword back into the keyword decision screen, you just set them back to research, the red ones. Push them both back to research, move. They'll take that keyword and they'll put it back in your keyword decision group. That's how you pull it out of your blueprint. If you want to migrate it to a silo, okay, then what you would do is basically you say select and make bridal hair a new silo. If you want it to be a category, you would basically, so you can see categories blue, you come to blue and you say make it a category of wedding, whatever. So from this control, you can move keywords around your blueprints. You can actually restructure them if you want to shift them around. The way you find is Manage Blueprint tab, click on the green arrow, and then you can move things around. Okay. Another feature we have in here, let's just leave that there, is when we click on this little folder with the icon, with the spanners, this gives you a little, it basically gives you all the parameters for that specific keyword. So we can come in here and we can actually write notes. We can keep a log of ideas and research notes on wedding ideas. We can customize the navigation so that when we import into the WordPress site, it's got a custom navigation already set for it. We can exclude it. This is obsolete. That's going to come out. You don't have to worry about that anymore. The competing pages, if you believe it's incorrect, you can update it over here. The same for the cost per click, same for the PPC costs and the traffic costs. You can come and change any of the metadata for a keyword at
Sorry guys, I thought I was on mute. That was me.
no problem, Russ. Okay, so from the managed content, we can come and change and move things around. That's how we do it. Okay, do you guys have any questions about the managed blueprint part? It's pretty simple. But what it allows you to do is to keep notes, modify the keyword metadata, and move keywords around your blueprint. That's what it essentially helps you do. Okay, so I'm going to go to the website blueprint. With the website blueprint, this screen was built to give us control of what silos we publish at what times. Because people work on different things at different times, we essentially can start off with a silo, so we can take the wedding silo and we can basically publish that silo. We want to publish that silo. What you must bear in mind when you look at this is essentially every node, a node being one of the keywords, it needs to have its parent published before it will become visible on WordPress. So if I go along and I publish all those and I try and import them into WordPress, I will not see the keywords. Those pages will not appear. I'll see them in WordPress, but when I put the silo menu on, it's not going to appear because I haven't selected the wedding. You need to always have the parent to make the siblings visible. Guys, can you give me a 1 if you understand that? It's very important. Or 2 if you don't. So make sure you guys are clear. So what's great about this is you have absolute control of what gets published when. So as you're building your site, you can build your site silo by silo. So we can do the wedding silo first. We can take the content, we can push it live. While that's gone live and it's being indexed and starts moving up the rankings and starts generating us leads, we can work on our next silo. Once that's done, we can publish that. Okay, and then we can push it live. When we select the things, we can actually approve them for publishing, or we can actually remove the approval. When it's approved, it'll have the blue world with the green icon. When it's not approved, it'll just be blank like that. Okay. Now remember, you don't have to have content written to publish the site. There's no restrictions there. You can create Silo framework and you can go straight from that to websites and then do everything on WordPress. It's totally up to you how you want to work. The system is variable, flexible that way. I recommend when you download your XMLs, use this navigation over here. That's going to give you the different types of structures that you're looking for. This is just the default one, which is sorted by searches. So when you put your keywords up, the ones with the most searches will float to the top. Okay. Right, so now we get into the promotional plan. And this is quite a huge model. What we've done over here is the promotional plan. When you start off, you have to set up the promotional plan. And basically, you fill in these forms, you fill in your costs over here, and it uses these costs over here to determine the promotional plan. Now, we've made with Social Explosion and the tools we've made now and the RSS tools, these sections, basically steps 4, 5, all the way down have become obsolete. Well, not necessarily obsolete, but you don't have to use them. If you want to have a promotional plan, click Setup, then 2, click Manage Promotion. So 1 and 2 is important for you guys, especially the guys who are selling blueprints. Those are the only 2 you have to use. You don't have to worry about all the content side of things. That's not important. Okay, and the way it works is once you've got to step 5, where you've published your website, those that are published will actually come live. You can see them here. You can set the date for the promotional date, and you can see what the keywords are worth to you over here, and you basically click Include. Until you're ready to finalize it, I suggest just using Include for now. Don't finalize it until you're 100%. But what this does is, as soon as we set up the promotional plan and we include all these keywords in the promotion for the set date, what it does is it spits out these nice little charts, which when you right-click on them, you can print them as a chart. You can copy the data. So if I copy that data and I come over here, it basically gives me a CSV formatted file with the volumes for the months. And the way this works is it's giving you a few perspectives of the actual campaign. So this campaign here is looking in a year in advance, okay? And what we got here is the yellow line is basically the budget for repurposed content. The red line is for new content, and the bars are essentially the amounts of content plus the price that you potentially pay. So you can see there, we're going to do 29 articles and we have the price. We're going to do 20 articles here, 27. So here we can see the promotion activity across a year span moving forward from the date that it was set. When we come down, we've got the months, start, end dates, how much content needs to be developed. If we do new content based on our prices, that's the price over there. If we're using repurposed content, that's going to be the price here. Now I notice that these two are identical. That is because in our business rules, we've got the blog set to 25 and the site content set to 25. So that's why the two are identical. When you're looking at the blog content going out, that's going to fall under your repurposed content. If you're creating unique new, that'll be basically using the site content prices. And then it shows you the difference of savings you'll make if you repurpose as you're moving through this. The next perspective we see is by promotion type. So Social Explosion covers most of these types of activities, okay? But it's nice to show your clients, look, this is the type of promotions we'll be doing. So in January, that's what we're going to do. February and so forth as we run through it, and it shows you the costs for the promotion as we go through. Then it shows you by keyword, and this is where this model here, the keyword model, is basically showing you how you back your way into the actual market. Okay, and this is what's it's taking the promotions and it's putting the most competitive ones that we not excluded, and it runs it all the way through. And you'll find in most promotions you'll get like this wedge step where all the low-hanging fruit and the less competitive keywords we promoted up front, but as we move through the promotion, we end up with the silos at the end. Okay, so you can see I've got hair over here, and if we scroll down, we can see we've got hair at the end. You can see hair is more prominent over here as we're doing the promotion. So what the promotional plan does, it gives you a nice graphical interface, nice charts, nice data to use when explaining what you're going to basically be doing for your clients. Do you guys have any questions with regards to this screen and what the promotional plan actually does over here? You can also export this out to a PDF over here if you click on this link over here. Can you give me one if you guys understand the screen and how to use it? Or two if you want just to clarify some things. Okay, cool. Right, so the next thing is reports, and I'm going to jump straight into the project cost analysis. And what the project cost analysis essentially does is it gives us a complete summary of the entire site from the silo structure right through to the promotional plan for the duration of the entire promotion week by week. And it also allows us to put in costs, more other costs. So when you look at this, we've got 20 silos that are published. Okay, so this is a primary site and the cost of those pages. We've got 9 flagged as development and the cost, so this is articles to be written. And there we can see our content cost, the domain costs, the logo cost. Now all these costs that come in over here, we can actually add them over here. We click update, okay? And here we can actually determine what type of model we're using. We can put the cost for the domain, the logo, the design, the silo architecture, the e-commerce software cost, annual hosting costs, plugin costs, script cost, SEO optimization cost, and then miscellaneous costs. Then on miscellaneous, we can actually add a note which breaks down how that miscellaneous figure has come in. So this helps us create a report where we can put most of the types of costs that we use in here. So under miscellaneous costs, if you've got specific fees that you charge the guys that are not included in the typical bill of a site, you can put the total cost in there, and then you can summarize the breakdown of how that cost is made up in the actual miscellaneous note. And when we update that, that information gets pushed into the report, gets factored in. And when we get down to the promotional cost, what it shows us here is what promotions we're going to do by week. So you can see there's week 3, week 5, week 8. As we're moving through the different weeks of the promotions, we can see what we're working on, what we're going to be doing. So there's videos happening there. And this gives us a total rundown for the total lifespan. So I'm just going to get right down to the bottom. So over a year and a half, we've got like 85 weeks. On week 85, these are the last things we're promoting. It's the hair wedding. This is like the last run. And the total quantity of promotions is 472. The cost to date, the maximum cost, repurpose cost, your average monthly cost, and your repurpose average monthly cost, and then total cost of the actual project ends up being 25K. So are we within our budget of $500? No, not at all. So this shows when you take this, when you end up with this report at the end, it takes everything we've done in DWS from building the silo, marking out the silo architecture, creating the site, getting the content prepared, planning the promotional plan, takes all that stuff, summarizes up into one report, and this would be the final thing that you would give the client to sign him up into a continuity. Let me just scroll, yes, we can leave it over there at the bottom. This is how you get your continuity. So when you sign the guy up, say, look, for the next year and a half, this is what we're going to be due to you. And many of the stuff gets managed through Social Explosion. And if the guys are writing their own content and stuff, they could essentially follow this plan and just target those keywords, and they write their articles week by week, month by month, and they go through the plan. If your team's doing it, they've got the structure for that project, and then that thing's set in stone, and it helps you. When you're speaking to your client, they've got a schedule of what's being planned, and they've got a schedule of what the costs are. They've got the monthly costs. They can actually see what that is. And you can tweak this and adjust this in any way you want. The ways you do this is either through the miscellaneous or through your content costs, and on the promotional screen we add the other costs in for doing videos and all that kind of stuff. That all gets pulled together. Dave, I think this report is the report that speaks to many of the questions that you've been asking. I hope I'm right. If not, let me know, but I think this will help you really give a detailed story to your clients, and you can manipulate this report in any way by adjusting the figures over here in the promotional plan. So remember, we're doing the content up front. In the promotional plan, under promotional plan setup, this little block over here where we've got our syndication and promotional development costs. What does it cost you to make a unit video? What does it cost you a press release? What's it cost you for a directory submission? What's it cost you for new content? What's it cost you for repurposed content? What's it cost you for backlinks? Okay, we fill those in, and then that basically takes us to the end report, which gets calculated. But this report can only get calculated once we generate a promotional plan. So the process would be, let me walk you through a process. This is very important. Step 1, promotional plan. We fill in all our costs and the basic information. Step 2, we go to manage the promotional blueprints, and we select the keywords that we want to include into the promotional plan. We press include. Once we press include, it will generate this report. And the reason why I say don't finalize this is because you can play around with this. You can give the guy 3 different options. You can say we can do the full thing now and it'll cost you X amount a month, or we can just focus on the silo. If you've made a mistake and you want to get rid of stuff, just click exclude and it'll remove everything and blank the slate. So you can create multiple different types of plans. Okay. Then once that's done, we can then come to our cost analysis, and that gives us the whole story of the whole promotion. So we've built our site, and then this is all the content development for the promotional plan. We're going to build videos, we're going to do directory submissions, we're going to do all that kind of stuff for those people, and it gives them a schedule of when and how it's going to do it. And that's basically what DWS Pro offers you guys. I know this webinar has been pretty long, guys, but I really wanted to give you a better understanding of how the process works, where we design the architecture, we identify the most important keywords per node, per page on the site. We can develop our cost or add team members to do stuff if we want to, but it's not mandatory. We then decide what we're going to promote when, so we publish those nodes. We then get the promotional plan and we put our costs in, and then we generate the report, and we basically go ahead and sell it. Okay, the progress report is essentially what I showed you earlier. This is just all the steps that you have to go through per stage within DWS. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, but this is what I think you guys, especially the guys who are selling blueprints, this is the golden chalice, because no one gives their clients this type of stuff.
Golden chalice, I like that one. I've never thought about the word chalice. Hey, Matt, there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, this is really great. Paul has said, great material, really appreciate you going through this. Mike Clay says, and clients love this. Another thing, Mike Clay said, oh, there's an aspect of, he saw that he's actually not, that's not in the Sell Blueprints first course, so Mike and I will talk about that. Rob thought it was great. Anyway, point here is social proof, lots of people saying that this is really cool stuff. I'm trying to see, David Hirschfeld lives locally here with me. David, what is it that you liked that was useful? I just want to double check. When you said cool, was it the promotional part of the output report? What is it that you like? Michael Pink says, you guys are awesome. Love you guys. This has been truly Stephen Pettit valuable.
Also, like now that Matt's done a recap, before that gets too far in the distance, if you could just run through Network Empire Builder, do the quick comparison about what's not in Network Empire Builder really fast again.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Do we have a comparison chart we can use rather than just talking about it, or?
Unfortunately, not right.
You can see it over here. If we look at the the process. What any builder doesn't have at the moment is a team manager and the site content.
Oh
And
yes, so you took 3 and 4 out, and that's only in DWS, is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yes, 3 and 4 is not there, and I'm migrating the promotional plan and the blueprints. I'm busy migrating that across to any builder for you guys.
Okay.
So the guys that are doing the light stuff, we're going to basically remove blog boost because Social Explosion has taken that over, and we're going to move the promotional plan and the report, the cost analysis report, into that section over there. So this is accessible for you guys as well.
Okay. Oh, Michael, that was you I talked to today. Okay, I didn't realize. Yeah, it's just the beginning, Michael. Michael and I had a Skype this morning. David is saying the last 2 parts, the graphs, the screens, and the cost analysis. Okay, I'm just jotting notes down. That's good. Killer screens. Okay, it's good to know. So can you guys give me a 1 if you understand the distinction that Matt just laid down between DWS and any builder? I think it's pretty key importance.
Yeah.
And I would like to create a document that has that very quickly, because I need that a couple times a week, and I'm never exactly 100% sure that I'm giving the right information. So we'll try to write
any builder
something
doesn't have any team functionality, and it doesn't have any content functionality built into it. It's the point of any builder was to get you live fast. It was get in, map your silo, to the blog, boom, it's done.
Yeah, exactly. We also want let's go ahead, Sue.
The other thing is, on the light version of Network Empire Builder, there's not quite as many columns on the keyword decision screen.
Unfortunately,
that as simple as possible.
Yeah, if I look at Design My Site, because I'm a pro version, I've got basically the pro columns. However, on the light version, where you're any member, you don't have the cost, the SSA, the suggested. You don't have any of these columns here. It's just they're not available. None of these are available. You got your search volume, competing pages, and I think you got your cost. I got to just set it.
Cost.
Yeah, it's got there's the time to rank, the suggested backlinks, and the suggested supporting articles. Those 3 columns are not available, and the conversions are not available on the light version of any builder.
Mm-hmm. Just as a quick,
that comes with your any basic membership as part of the package.
How many of you are? Just give me a little bit of some survey feedback. Can you please give me a 1 if you predict that where you're at in your business and wherever you may find yourself, that you are probably going to use more of the any builder, and a 2 if you're going to use if you would probably use DWS the most. So a 1 if you would use any builder, a 2 if you would use DWS the most. Okay, that's not numbers that I expected. Okay, interesting.
The other thing I'll say is that these 2 pieces of software have the same database on the back side. So if you start off in Network Empire Builder and later decide that you want to upgrade to DWS, all of your projects move forward with you.
Right. 2 was David, 2 was DWS is what I was meaning, the advanced version.
What I find is when I build sites, if I need to do a quick mock-up, I use any builder. I don't use the pro version. I just go to any builder, I map it out there really quickly, and then hop across and I build the site, especially when we're doing prototypes and that kind of stuff. When I need to spend more time in more detail and I have to look at the whole story, then I hop across to pro. So what's great about the Pro bundle when you get TLK, TM Pro is you have the best of both worlds. So you can have the Pro version or you can have the light version if you just want to do a quick mock-up or a prototype or an example site for a client. You can just go knock it out really quickly. You can do it in both versions. Your data moves across. The Empire screens essentially will show the same project. So there we got migration test, and then over here, if I go to the Empires, there's migration test.
All right, very good.
With the light any builder, you only allowed 1 project. So if you create another one, it's going to shift your previous one out the way. You have to delete that project to actually get your new project.
Okay. So are we allowed to talk? Okay, that's good. We'll just keep it on that one. I was going to get into Trident, but let's do that for another webinar. Okay. What do you think, Sue? Did we cover enough today, or it looks like we've
Yeah, I
used up
think
a lot
that's
of
good.
questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We have the webinar replay for this. That will be available in the Network Empire exclusive members area. And I really want to appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be here. Also wanted to just thank Matt for putting this together. We're going to be doing, Sue and I have been talking a lot about this, and we're going to be doing more and more enterprise level webinars like this one, and to be announced, and they will appear on the Network Empire calendar and schedule, and will be regularly rolled out with regular replays for your convenience. Also wanted to point out that tomorrow is a rare rollout for the automatic content broadcasting. You might have noticed Matt earlier talked about a lot of the RSS stuff that's new that has rendered some aspects of the promotional area not as needed. Well, a lot of that is discussed in the, at least similar things are discussed in the content, automatic content syndication course, which is launching in a couple of weeks. We do have a free webinar tomorrow about that. And the free webinar alone is better than most of the paid topics and courses that I've purchased out there, which has been hundreds, or at least dozens. So I would strongly recommend that you guys take time out of your day to be there. There will be no replay on that. There will be no replay for the general public. If you are a current member, there will be a replay on it. But if you're on the call and you're not a current Network Empire member, you probably want to be on that call. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that link in here in case you guys didn't get on. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Matt, you're going to be on that one, aren't you?
I'm flying to America tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. You're hopping on a plane, so you won't. That'll be just okay. Whoever's here, then I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys the link in case you can make it. And of course, members, we will post the replay for you, but we're not going to publish a public copy of that, I don't think. All right, so I'll just go ahead and drop that in the chat room. Sue, do you have any other things you want to say in closing?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This has been Matt DeCruz, Sue Bell, and Russell Wright. We look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, and hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.